As you're looking to travel the world on points, there's a lot of potential mistakes and missteps that you could make that if you knew how to avoid them, you'd actually come out way ahead. In fact, if I had known the 7 things that we're going to talk about in this video when I was first starting out, then I would have been able to fly on so many more flights, redeem so many more points successfully, and spend less money on travel over the years as I was figuring everything out. So here are 7 things I wish I knew when I first started collecting points, and the final thing we're going to talk about in this video is something that could have saved me hundreds of hours or thousands of dollars if I had known about it earlier. So make sure to watch until the very end. Now, the first thing that I wish I knew was the value of staying organized as you're looking to optimize your miles and points. Now, having strong organizational skills is actually one of the basic tenets of maximizing your miles and points, because it's really hard to figure out which credit cards you just applied for and which one you're spending on to meet the spend to get the points and which trip that you're planning to book next if you don't have good organizational skills to give you a clear sense of where you are in the process. For many of us in the community, we use spreadsheets to keep everything organized. Here's the credit card I just got. Here's the date I got it. Here's the deadline for meeting my spend, which is 3 months or 6 months from the date I got it. Here's the amount I have to spend on the card in order to earn the welcome bonus. How much have I spent towards that minimum amount? How much is the welcome bonus that I'm going to get? And how much closer is that going to get me to the final travel goal that I want to book? Then on the cost side, you also track what are the fees you've paid for credit cards so you can have a sense of how much money has gone out of pocket towards this trip and what's the overall value that you're getting out of your points. What's the overall multiplier effect on this cash outlay on credit cards that you get in terms of travel value at the end? Now, you can actually take this very far, and there's all sorts of examples of incredibly complex spreadsheets that can be built to track exactly how much you're optimizing your cards and your points and which trips that you're actually booking at the end. But the key point of it here is that no matter what your system is, you have to have some kind of system. When I was first starting out, I just kept everything in my head and in my emails, and then eventually when I missed my first payment deadline or did something I wasn't supposed to do, I recognized the importance of staying organized, so I set up my spreadsheet for myself. After all, the rewards are so compelling in this space, but if you do make a mistake, sometimes it can be quite detrimental. For example, if you sign up for a card and there's a minimum spend associated with it, but you fail to meet that spend, then oftentimes you actually won't ever get the bonus on that card again, because a lot of the terms say that new welcome bonuses are only eligible if you're a first-time cardholder. So if you get the card, miss the spend, and then get the card again in the future, you still won't be eligible for it anymore, so you've just lost out on that opportunity. Now, the second thing I wish I knew when I was first starting out is that points do not actually belong to you and can be taken away at any time. Indeed, if you read the terms and conditions of any airline or hotel loyalty program, you'll see a term that states that the points are the property of the airline or hotel and don't actually have any value associated with them until you redeem for a certain flight, hotel, or other redemption. Now, this is important to know because there's quite a number of situations where you might have your points taken away from you that you might not be expecting from the outset. For example, if you're holding a credit card and earning points with a given financial institution's in-house points currency, like American Express membership rewards or TD rewards or Chase Ultimate Rewards in the US, for example, some common examples of getting your points taken away might be for reasons such as not paying your balances on time, missing payment deadlines, for example, or if you break terms and conditions that are set out in the programs, that can also result in your points taken away. Always remember, maximizing points is a marathon, not a sprint. The rules are laid out in the terms and conditions, and not abiding by those rules is something that could jeopardize the points balances that you've been building up. So it's important to always look at the terms and conditions and try to abide by them, because if your points were to be taken away, then it's something that's quite difficult to get reinstated. Now, one more risk in the miles and points space that's worth talking about as the third thing I wish I knew when I was first starting to collect points is what's known as the dreaded devaluation. Or in other words, when the airlines or hotels unilaterally change the rules, often without any notice, such that your points become less valuable and anything you had wanted to book is going to require more points or more difficulty or more complexity to actually get booked. Here's something that might surprise you if you're new to this. You could spend years collecting points, and then at the very last second, before you're about to book something like a first class flight that you've been dreaming of, the price all of a sudden goes up because the airline has changed the rules. That's happened to more than a fair few of us, certainly happened to me before, and that's why an age-old adage in the community is what's known as earn and burn. Don't ever be guilty of hoarding your points, trying to wait for the future, trying to like save them for retirement or something. Always do whatever you can to earn enough points to book your next dream trip, and then immediately go ahead and redeem them so you can unlock the value out of those points, have that experience in terms of the travel, and then start over and do it all over again. There's been so many examples over the years of banks, airlines, and hotels making these changes. Sometimes they have an announcement period where they'll let you know, and then you have a certain window of time to optimize your bookings before the changes kick in, but oftentimes they're actually quite sneaky and they do it overnight in a way that's not announced anywhere, and you don't know until you actually go and search to book. The good news though is that we here at Prince of Travel are always on top of the news. We're always here to update you whenever this happens so that you can stay in the know. If you're interested in doing so, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, and of course that bell icon next to it so that you get notified for new videos. Now, the fourth thing I wish I knew when I was first starting out maximizing travel on points is the importance of flexibility. This is actually extremely important if you want to get maximum value out of your points. The ability to be flexible in your travel plans is probably the single thing that'll make the most difference to whether you're successful in booking first-class flights and staying at nice places, and whether you just achieve moderate outcomes, whether you just get a win here but a kind of a not so impressive win there, right? It's all about how flexible you can be, because the more flexible you can be, the more you can go specifically seek out those wins and have those awesome experiences. The way it works is that even though points can unlock amazing travel experiences at a very, very good value, they're not going to be available every day of the week. In fact, there's only going to be a small subset of potential travel dates where these amazing redemption possibilities will actually exist. And let me just tell you straight up, your first choice date that you want to travel on is probably not going to be available, and you should feel very lucky if your first choice date is in fact available for you to fly in business class or first class on the specific routing that you want at a reasonable price. Now let's take airlines for example. Because of how the underlying economics work, which is a little bit beyond the scope of this video, we generally say that the best way to maximize your points and have the best odds of success is to book either way out in advance, like 9 to 12 months before your date of travel, or very, very last minute, so 2 weeks out, 1 week out, a few days out, that kind of thing. So if you're a traveler who can book with that amount of advanced planning or last minute flexibility, then you'll have a natural advantage. But no matter how long in advance you book, it's always going to be better if you have backup dates, backup routing possibilities, backup destinations that you'd like to go to, because that's simply going to expand your range of possibilities to get success out of your points. And what's more, it's also going to serve you well to have flexibility in the way you think about travel planning and travel bookings. And what I mean here is if you're open to flying out of alternative airports or flying into alternative airports for whatever trip you're trying to plan, that's again going to make you more likely to actually find something that works for you. For example, if you're planning a trip from Toronto to Paris, but you're not finding anything reasonable in terms of business class, let's say Aeroplan's dynamic pricing is super expensive. However, if you looked for Air Canada's routes from Toronto to say Nice or Marseille, and then you were able to take a train into Paris, or say spend a few days on the French Riviera before going to Paris for the rest of your trip, then you're more likely to find something reasonably priced on those routes that have lower demand. Now, the idea of taking a train to your final destination is a good example of another concept that you'll have to understand and buy into if you want to be successful with points. And that's the idea of a positioning flight or a positioning trip, in this case, a positioning train ride. The whole idea is you have to be comfortable with making extra bookings on the side of your main booking, which is typically going to be a trans-Pacific or transatlantic business class or first class flight, because that's usually the big part of the trip that we're trying to optimize for. The premium cabin, the lie flat bed when you're flying, the luxurious experience you wouldn't otherwise pay cash for. And then typically, if we can find that, we're going to be very happy with the outcome. But the thing is, that lie flat flight is not always going to be from your home airport to your true ultimate destination. It might be from a city a little bit away from your home airport to a city a little bit away from your true destination. And then you just have to figure out how to make those extra bookings work. What's the best way to optimize for those? For example, if you live in Canada, one key thing to know is that there's often more award availability or award space in business and first class out of US gateway airports like New York or Los Angeles compared to out of the Canadian airports like Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. So oftentimes you'll need to book a positioning flight down to the US before going to Europe or Asia or somewhere else in the world. If you want to see a specific video about positioning flights, because there's actually quite a bit of science around it, let me know in the comments below, and if there's enough interest, we'll go ahead and make it. Now, before we move on, it's also important to think when you're first starting out about which exact loyalty programs you're going to choose to participate in, because they're all kind of different and each one has its advantages. And even though redeeming points for flights is usually the most attractive element of what we do, the hotel side is also important to think about, because after all, you need a place to stay on your trip, so it's important to choose a few good hotel loyalty programs to join and be a part of. Now that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in, because one of the best hotel programs out there is Marriott Bonvoy, and that's a program that I've been in since the start of my days collecting points, and one that served me really well over the years. There's so many reasons why I collect Marriott Bonvoy points, why I engage with the program, why I rack up Marriott Bonvoy status. You've got perks just for being a member, like special member rates, free Wi-Fi, and mobile check-in, and you've got the ability to earn free nights either by staying at Marriott Bonvoy properties a lot and being a loyal member, or through collecting points on the co-branded credit cards in the US or Canada, and racking up the points such that you can redeem them either for hotels or for unique lifestyle experiences like culinary, arts, sports, or entertainment experiences through the Marriott Bonvoy Moments program. There are two Canadian credit cards in particular that you'll want to check out, one personal and one business. The personal card is the Marriott Bonvoy American Express card, which currently offers 65,000 points upon spending $3,000 in the first 3 months, whereas the business card is the Marriott Bonvoy Business American Express card, which currently gives you 75,000 points upon spending $6,000 in the first 3 months. If you're interested in applying for these cards or just to see the latest offers, which could change from the time you watch this video, check out the links in the description below, as well as a link on how to join the Marriott Bonvoy Award Program if you're not a member already. And big thanks to Marriott Bonvoy for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the fifth thing that I wish I had known when I was first starting out collecting points. And that's going to be the importance of diversifying your miles and points portfolio. Now, when you're first starting out, it's only natural to concentrate on one program or one or two programs, but soon after, you actually want to get involved with many different programs so you can unlock all of the different sweet spots and all of the different redemption possibilities that each program uniquely offers. Remember, your first choice flight or hotel may or may not always be available for you to book on points, or it might cost too much because of dynamic pricing in a certain program. For example, Aeroplan, which is Air Canada's loyalty program, is known for its dynamic pricing, which means sometimes you'll get really good deals, but other times it's going to cost you a pretty crazy amount that only very few members are going to be willing to pay. Now, fortunately, there are other airline programs that have since gained popularity in Canada, such as Air France-KLM's Flying Blue program or the British Airways Executive Club, or also what's known as British Airways Avios. Now, both of these programs let you easily earn points through Canadian issued credit cards or through Canadian bank partners that let you transfer points over to the program. For example, if you earn RBC Avion points through RBC's credit cards, you can then transfer them at a 1-to-1 ratio over to Avios, which can then be redeemed towards some amazing flight experiences, including the world's best business class, Qatar Airways Q Suites, through the Avios program. Meanwhile, Air France-KLM also has a credit card of its own that's now available to Canadians that lets you earn 2 Flying Blue miles per dollar spent at bars and restaurants and 1 mile everywhere else. And once you've earned these miles, Flying Blue is an incredible program for flying over to Europe in business class, because no matter where you're originating from in Canada, and they do serve a lot of airports, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton in Western Canada, as well as Toronto, Montreal, Quebec City, and Ottawa on the East Coast, you can fly in business class to either Paris or Amsterdam for as few as 50,000 miles one way. And that's typically lower than what a competing program like, say, Aeroplan would charge you. Sometimes you'll even get even further discounts on this pricing based on Air France-KLM's monthly promo rewards, which can get you business class across the Atlantic for as low as 37,500 miles. Now, in addition to racking up the airline miles, which will let you fly in premium cabins, it's also going to be important to stack up the flexible rewards points that let you redeem points against any travel purchase. These are points programs like Scotiabank Scene Plus or CIBC Aventura that'll simply be useful for reducing the amount that you spend out of pocket on travel, which will then let you allocate your travel budget towards even more trips in the future. A great example of a flexible points card is the Scotiabank Passport Visa Infinite card, which lets you earn Scene Plus points that can in turn be redeemed for any travel purchases, hotels, car rentals, attraction tickets, even Uber rides as well. And plus, the Scotia Passport card is a no FX fee card that you can use on your foreign purchases and save on the 2.5%. Now, number 6 thing I wish I knew when I was first starting out using points is using what's known as the tools of the trade, because there's a lot of tools out there that can make your life easier as you're looking to search for the right flights that will get you to your destination. Remember, we talked about how these flights can be very difficult to because everybody's looking for them, and the airlines only release a few seats to be booked on points, especially in premium cabins. So there's a lot of useful tools that you can tap into. One of the tools that I've recently come across that I'm pretty impressed by is what's known as Award Tool, which lets you search up to 4 destinations on up to 4 dates with a free account. So you don't actually have to pay, and you get this flexibility in searching. Most of the airline websites only allow you to choose one origin, one destination, and one date to search on, so it's going to take you forever to find the flight that you want. Award Tool makes the process a lot quicker, so that's something for you to look into. On the hotel side, you can check out a search tool called Aways, which lets you search hotel awards by program and by price and find that dream hotel redemption that you've been looking for as well. And again, if you like a full video going through all the possible tools, their relative strengths and advantages, which one's best for you, let me know in the comments and we'll take that into account. And now lastly, the 7th thing I wish I knew when I was first starting out is the power of tapping into community. This is perhaps the most valuable tip to know as you begin and continue on your miles and points journey, is that learning and figuring out everything on your own is only going to get you so far. Because once you join forces with other passionate travelers who are all about using their points to see as much of the world as possible, you get to learn from each other's success stories, learn from each other's mistakes, and accelerate your learning curve to a significant degree. Not only can the community help you answer your questions, but they can also provide useful data data points, which is the term we use for anecdotes or examples of specific instances of what worked or what didn't work. For example, I applied for X card and met the minimum spend, but I didn't get the points until 1 month later. That's something that might not be obvious from the outset, but if a fellow community member told you that and you were able to implement it into your strategy, you'd know not to expect those points until 1 month after you hit the spend, and you could plan your travel booking process accordingly. Now here at Prince of Travel, we've got a Facebook group that is free to join, and we already have more than 20,000 members, so the link is in the description below, and I'd encourage you to check it out. Join the group, introduce yourself, and engage with the community as you plan your travels around the world. And if you want an even more dedicated community, we've also got the Club Lounge on Discord, which is available to Prince of Travel Platinum members. You can check out the Platinum membership for yourself below and decide if it's right for you to join. And if you want one-on-one consulting to help you with your specific situation, we've got a consultation service that you can book a call in with one of our experts as well. In many ways, this is kind of obvious. That's something that I wish I had known from the start, because after all, it didn't exist when I was first starting out, and we've since built out this entire community to help you travel better as well. All right, that's it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably also find this video useful as you embark on your own journey. So I'll go ahead and see you over there.